Hi, my name is Daniel Charlton. I'm the Tree Trust Coordinator for Friends of Warner Park.
I'm Will Chamberlain, and I'm here to work at Warner Park also.
And we're here to teach you how to plant a tree. So the first thing you want to do, we've already cleared the ground where we're going to be planting our tree. You want to measure the root ball around your tree. So I'm just going to use the handle of my tool here. See how long this is, about that long. You want to go about twice as wide as the width of the hole. So start there. So that's going to be the size of our hole.
We're digging in a wooded area. There are a lot of roots that we may have to chop out of the way in order to get the hole the size that we need it. We're putting it all on the dirt onto a surface here so that we can get more of the dirt saved to put back into the hole. It doesn't get lost in the forest.
Now when you're digging your hole, you don't want the sides of the hole going straight down. You want to angle them in a little bit. So it's going to be the smallest in the middle. So that helps the tree stay in place a little bit. It also helps direct water inward toward the roots. And when you're first digging, you don't want to go too deep. You want to start too shallow, and it's easy to dig further if you need to. But if you dig too deep and then fill back in, some of that dirt might collapse and compact, and your tree will end up lower than where you planted it. So as much as possible, you want to get the roots out of the dirt. We're going to reuse all this dirt to fill the hole back in, but we're going to try to take these roots out of there. Now we've got a pretty small tree here, so we might already be deep enough. I'm going to take the tree out of the container. We'll see if it's deep enough. Now normally if you're planting on your own, you'll be buying these at a store. They'll come grown in a container. This is a tree we just transplanted from somewhere else in the park. So you might have more trouble or less trouble getting it out of these containers. Could you give me a hand, Will?
Yeah. We put a plastic bag in the bucket so that when we lift this out, we might be able to keep the root ball intact. With this, we can test the depth of the hole without disturbing the roots by not having it in the bag.
All right. Now what you want to do when you're planting, you want to be careful not to go too deep. So you want to look at the base of the tree where the trunk starts to flare out a little bit. That area is called the root flare. And you want that to be actually 1 to 2 inches above the surrounding soil. So we've done here exactly what I told you not to do. We dug our hole a little bit too deep. So we're going to fill some back in and try it again.
With the plastic bag around there, it makes it easier to lift it in and out without disturbing the roots. Another thing that you might want to give consideration to is when you're positioning the tree may look better in one direction than another. You may want to twist the tree around to be sure that the best view is afforded where it'll get the most viewing.
All right, let's try that. That still looks just a little bit low to me. I'm about happy with that height. What do you think, Will?
Right.
So when you're trying to figure out how deep to plant the tree, you want to look for the root flare at the base of the tree. That's the area where at the base where the trunk starts to get a little bit wider. And that actually needs to be a little bit higher than the surrounding soil, about an inch or two above the surrounding soil. So you can lay a tool across to help measure the depth. Got our hole as deep as we want it. This is a fairly small hole because it's a pretty small tree. If you're planting at home, you might need to dig a lot deeper than this. Another thing, if you're planting at home, if you get a container grown tree, you'll probably see the roots circling around the edge of the container. You won't see that here because this is a tree we just dug up today. But before you plant your tree, you want to make sure that those roots aren't circling the tree. You actually go in, you can break them up with your hands, or if they're particularly tough, you can cut them. And that lets the roots direct outwards, so it gives a better chance for the tree to grow. All right, so let's put this in here.
We've removed the plastic from the tree, and once you place the tree to the angle that you want it, twist it around to the best display for the view. Then you can actually perhaps press on the root ball a little bit to get the tree to stand up to be the type the shape that you want.
It's surprisingly easy to have the tree completely crooked. So you want to stand from a couple different angles and look at it, make sure it's growing the way you want it to. This tree is actually, it curves a little bit on its own, so we're not going to get it completely straight. But I'm happy with that, the way it looks now. We're going to start to fill in this hole. Kind of press the dirt in. And when we get it most of the way full, we're going to add some water. That not only gives water for the tree, but it also helps kind of pack this dirt in, fill it in a little bit more so the tree can bond to the dirt around it. All right, so let's add our water. Pour it in nice and slow all the way around.
This will ensure the tree gets water to begin with, and it will also help settle all the dirt around the roots so that each root that's going to be taking up the water will be in contact with wet soil.
Now again, this is a fairly small tree, so we're just using 1 bucket of water. For a larger tree, you'd probably want to use 2. All right, so once this water drains, we'll fill it in the rest of the way.
Putting the soil on a cloth or a bag will allow you to collect more of the soil to replant in there that doesn't get lost in the grass.
Ready, yep. And then as you're finishing, you want to build a ring of dirt around the tree. A lot of times you'll see people pile dirt or mulch right up against the trunk, and that's something you don't want to do. We call those mulch volcanoes, and they not only they can cause a lot of moisture, which makes the trunk rot, but also they keep the tree from breathing. So you want a nice wide ring around it, and this is going to catch water and direct it in towards the roots.
In some circumstances, a volcano like that will encourage the roots to actually grow roots above ground level out into the volcano, which will dissipate after a while, and you have roots that are sticking out into the air.
All right, and to finish off, we're going to mulch our tree. We're using Nature's Mulch here. We just have a pile of leaves, but you can use any type of mulch you have available. And again, you want a nice ring of mulch around, but you don't want it up against the tree. So we're gonna pull it back, surrounding the tree, but not touching the trunk. And that's all there is to it. Thank you so much for watching.